وَيَوْمَ يَحْشُرُهُمْ. So in that is a lesson for us, that while we are studying the book, what should our focus be? Not just to get a diploma, not just to get full percentage of attendance and so on and so forth. But what should be our focus? That we want to benefit from the Qur'an, because only when a person reads the Qur'an with this intention, then he can benefit from it. وَيَوْمَ يَحْشُرُهُمْ. And the day that he will gather them, meaning on the day of judgment. وَيَوْمَ, what does it indicate? وَذْكُرْ يَوْمَ. And mention the day. When he will gather them, كَأَنْ, as if لَمْ يَلْبَسُوا, as if they did not remain, إِلَّا سَاعَةً, except an hour. يَلْبَسُوا is from the root letters, لَامْبَاسَ. And labs is to remain, to stay somewhere. And generally the word is used for staying somewhere for a long time. But on that day, when they will be gathered, it will appear to them as if they did not remain in the world except for just an hour. Just for some time. Just for a moment. مِنَ النَّهَارِ, of the day. يَتَعَارَفُونَ بَيْنَهُمْ. And they will recognize each other. They will know one another. So on the day of judgment, out of realizing the enormity of that day, it will be as if they never stayed in dunya except for just a part of the day. If you think of it, the day of judgment is how long? 50,000 years. And the life of this world is how long? For each person. Who lives in this dunya for even 1,000 years? Forget about 50,000. So obviously, if you compare the 50,000 and 60 to 70 to 80 years, what is that? Only a part of the day compared to 50,000 years. So it will appear to them as if they did not stay in the world except only an hour of the day. And on the day of judgment, يَتَعَارَفُونَ بَيْنَهُمْ. They will recognize one another. Ta'aruf, يَتَعَارَفُونَ from ta'aruf, from the root letters ayn rafa. What does urf mean? Ma'ruf. Recognized good. So يَتَعَارَفُونَ, they will recognize one another. They will know one another. They will become acquainted with one another. It's not that people will not recognize each other. No, they will. قَدْ خَسِرَ الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِلِقَاءِ اللَّهِ. Certainly he will suffer loss. Who? Those people who denied the meeting with Allah. وَمَا كَانُوا مُهْتَدِينَ. And they were not guided at all. So on the day of judgment, when we will see the greatness of that day, when we will realize its enormity, its reality, then dunya will seem very insignificant. Very insignificant. Right now, at present, the dunya seems to be very long, very important. Which is why we spend so many hours just following, just pursuing this world. Whereas on the day of judgment, we will realize that this dunya had absolutely no value. That the whole time had been wasted. That we considered the sorrows of this world to be the real sorrows, and the happiness of this world to be the real happiness, the success of this world to be the real success. But it's all over. It's finished. If you look at it, every success of this dunya will eventually come to an end. It will be over. Just imagine how people spend years trying to get one gold medal, one certificate, one degree. And while they have it, they keep it with themselves thinking this is so important to me. But when they die, a few years later, after some time, eventually where does it end up? In the garbage dump. Just the other day somebody was saying that they cannot justify that they should buy something very expensive. Why? Because something very expensive and something very cheap. Eventually, both of them, they end up in a garbage dump. Both of them, they end up in the same place in a few years. So they said, I cannot justify that I spent so much money on something like this when it's going to end up in the garbage dump. When I am content with something that is cheaper, it fulfills my need, then why should I bother wasting my money on something that is overpriced? So anyway, the objective of mentioning this is that anything of this world eventually comes to an end. Eventually it is over. While we have it, it seems extremely important to us. We think we cannot live without it. We cannot survive without it. It would be impossible to go about daily life without those things. However, eventually they're over. They're finished. And this is a reality that we will realize on the Day of Judgment. And on the Day of Judgment, there will only be regrets. يَوْمُ الْحَسْرَةِ. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, ayah 113, we learn قَالُوا لَبِثْنَا يَوْمًا أَوْ بَعْضَ يَوْمٍ فَاسْأَلِ الْعَادِّينَ. They will say, we remained a day or part of a day. Ask those who enumerate. Those people who count things, ask them, how long did we stay in the world? We don't know. We think maybe a day or part of the day. In Surah Al-Nazi'at, ayah 46, we learn, كَأَنَّهُمْ يَوْمَ يَرَوْنَهَا لَمْ يَلْبَثُوا إِلَّا عَشِيَّةً أَوْ ضُحَاهَا. It will be on the day they see it as though they had not remained in the world except for an afternoon or a morning of it. So on the Day of Judgment, the dunya will seem very insignificant because it will be over. It will be finished. And secondly, we also learn in this ayah that people will recognize one another on the Day of Judgment. How will they recognize one another? Because they were acquainted with one another in the world. And if they did not know one another, at least they knew of each other's description. Like for example, we haven't seen the Sahaba, but we have learnt of their description. Similarly, the 7 people under the shade of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we know as to what their description is. So people will recognize one another. And this recognition will be a cause of happiness for some, and it will be a cause of embarrassment for some. Because some people will be recognized by some good signs, like the marks of wudu, the place where they're standing on the Day of Judgment. And for other people, it will be a cause of great embarrassment. In Surah Al-Rahman, ayah 41, we learn, يُعْرَفُ الْمُجْرِمُونَ بِسِيمَاهُمْ فَيُؤْخَذُ بِالنَّوَاصِي وَالْأَقْدَامِ. The criminals will be known by their marks. They will be identified by their marks. And then they will be seized by their forelocks and their feet. So initially, people will recognize one another at the time of resurrection. But then, this ta'aruf will be severed. Why? Because of the severities of that day. Because of the difficulties of that day. So despite recognizing one another, people will be of no use to each other. Despite the fact that people will recognize one another, they will not be able to help one another. Like we learn in Surah Al-Ma'arij, ayah number 10, وَلَا يَسْأَلُ حَمِيمٌ حَمِيمًا. And no friend will ask anything of a friend. If you go anywhere, in any crowd, who do you look for? Your friends. Do I know anybody here? Any wedding you go to, any party you go to, immediately you look at everybody. Do I know anybody here? If you know anybody, you go to them, sit with them, talk to them, greet them. And if you don't know anybody, you don't want to walk in. But on that day, even though you will recognize your closest of friends, Hamim, closest of friends, no friend will ask another, so how are you doing? What have you gone through? No. Why? Because of the severities of that day. Similarly, we learn in Surah Abasa that يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ. A person will recognize his brother, still he will run away from him. وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ. Each person will run away from the other. Here, the dunya seems very important. But then, we will see that all the connections, all the friendships of this dunya also, they have no value over there, if we have not been good ourselves. وَإِمَّا نُرِيَنَّكَ. And whether we show you بَعْضَ الَّذِي نَعِدُهُمْ, some of what we promised them. The address is to who? The Prophet ﷺ. That if we show you some of that which we promised them, what is it that was promised to them? The mushrikeen of Makkah, the rejectors, the deniers. What was promised to them? Punishment. That if they reject, they will get punishment. And remember earlier we learned, وَلَمَّا يَأْتِهِمْ تَأْوِيلُهُ. Ta'wil was mentioned. That actualization of an event that has been mentioned. And of those events is punishment. So if we show you some of that which we promised them, meaning if the punishment comes while you are here, if the punishment descends on these people in your lifetime, in the dunya, أو or نتوفينك, we recall you fully. نتوفى, yeah. From the root letters, وفايا, توفي, توفى, يتوفى. What does it mean? To recall, to take fully. And the word is also used for giving death. Because when a person dies, his soul is extracted fully. It is taken up fully. And the noon mushaddad over here gives meaning of definitely. Or we give death to you. Meaning before they are punished, you are given death. You are taken away from the world. So in other words, whether their punishment comes to them in this life of yours or it comes to them after you have gone. فَإِلَيْنَا مَرْجِعُهُمْ. Then in either case, to us is their return. The punishment will come to them. Either in the dunya or the hereafter. Either in your lifetime or after you have passed away. ثُمَّ اللَّهُ شَهِيدٌ عَلَى مَا يَفْعَلُونَ. Then Allah will be a witness over what they do. Meaning Allah is fully aware of their actions and He knows very well as to what they deserve. The word shaheed is used for a witness, but it's not just used for witness, it is also used for a judge. Because shahada is also used for judgment. Like in Surah Yusuf, ayah number 26, we learn, وَشَهِدَ شَاهِدٌ مِنْ أَهْلِهَا. That when Yusuf a.s. escaped from the room, and she grabbed hold of his shirt, and it tore from the back, شَهِدَ شَاهِدٌ مِنْ أَهْلِهَا. A shahid, a judge from the family, he decided that if the shirt is ripped from the front, then he is at fault. And if it's ripped from behind, then she is at fault. So shahida shahidun, what does it mean? The judge made a decision. So summa Allahu shahidun ala ma yaf'alun, meaning He is the judge. He will decide as to what should be done with them. So the Prophet ﷺ is being consoled over here that do not worry. If they're not believing and they're not getting caught, they will be questioned. Generally what happens? When people do wrong and still they're not punished, what do we think? Now look at these people. They're so lucky. They're doing whatever they want to and they're not caught. No punishment falls upon them. They don't see any difficulty in their lives. And they're doing whatever they want to do. Their life is so easy. So over here we're being told that if somebody is doing something wrong, whether you see their punishment coming or you don't see their punishment coming, know that their hisab is with Allah. He knows what they have been doing and He will deal with them. وَلِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولٍ. And for every nation is a messenger. Every nation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to it a messenger to guide that people, to guide that nation. فَإِذَا جَاءَ رَسُولُهُمْ. Then when their messenger came to them, قُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ. It was decided between them. What was decided between them? بِالْقِسْطِ, with the justice. That when their messenger came and the people rejected, then the punishment was sent upon the people. So قُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ, it gives the meaning of punishment was sent upon those people when? After they were informed about the truth. So in other words, Allah does not punish a people until they know what they're supposed to do. Until they know what they're supposed to do. And if they reject, after gaining knowledge, after the coming of the messenger, then they are punished. If you look at it, Nuh alayhi salam, so many messengers, when they came, when they gave the message, still people rejected, then the punishment descended. قُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْقِسْطِ وَهُمْ لَا يَظْلَمُونَ. And they are not treated with injustice. This ayah is also understood in another way. That فَإِذَا جَاءَ رَسُولُهُمْ, when their messenger came to them. Meaning on the day of judgment. On the day of judgment, when different nations are brought for their hisab, then what's going to happen? Before judgment is made concerning them, their messenger is going to be brought. Like for example, a nation is brought forth, and the nation was of those people who disbelieved, those people who did shirk. So before they are sent to hellfire, what's going to happen? Their messenger is going to be brought. And he is going to be asked, did you deliver? Did you convey? What did these people do? And the people will be questioned. And when the people will reject that no messenger ever came to us, we didn't know what was right and what was wrong, then what's going to happen? Who's going to be brought forth as a witness? The Prophet ﷺ and also the Muslim Ummah. لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. So فَإِذَا جَاءَ رَسُولُهُمْ, then when the messenger will be brought on the day of judgment, then قُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْقِسْطِ. Then the judgment will be made between them with justice. وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. And there will be no injustice on the day of judgment. We learned in Surah Az-Zumar, ayah 69, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَشْرَقَتِ الْأَرْضُ بِنُورِ رَبِّهَا, and the earth will shine with the light of its Lord. وَوُضِعَ الْكِتَابُ, and the record of deeds will be placed. وَجِيءَ بِالنَّبِيِّينَ وَالشُّهَدَاء, and the prophets and the witnesses will be brought. وَقُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْحَقِّ, and it will be judged between them in truth. وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ, and they will not be wronged. So elsewhere in the Quran as well, what do we learn? That judgment will be established on the Day of Judgment once the witnesses are brought. And of the witnesses are who? Of the witnesses are who? The prophets who were sent to the people. So on the one hand, people will be brought before Allah. And on the other hand, the messenger will also be shown as to what the people had done. وَيَقُولُونَ, and they say, مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ, when is this promise going to be? إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ, if you're truthful. Meaning, when will this promise be fulfilled? Which promise? Of punishment, of the Day of Judgment, this threat that you're giving us, when will it be fulfilled? And the mushrikeen of Makkah, they always use this argument when they were defeated. Whenever they had no answer left, like for example in the previous ayat, what was mentioned? Negation of shirk. One ayah after the other. So when they would have nothing left to say, they would say, okay, when is the Day of Judgment going to be? And the Prophet ﷺ would say, I don't know. Allah knows. So they would say, see, you don't know about anything, you're a liar. So they would say, مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ, when is this promise going to be if you're truthful? The Prophet ﷺ is told, قُلْ, say, لَا أَمْلِكُ لِنَفْسِي, I do not possess for myself ضَرًّا, any harm, وَلَا نَفْعًا, nor any benefit. I don't have any control to benefit myself or to avoid any harm from myself. إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهِ, except for what Allah wills. If Allah wants to give me some harm, it's up to Him. If Allah wants to give me some good, it's up to Him. I don't have any control. So in other words, who has complete authority and power? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who has complete knowledge? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He knows when the Day of Judgment is going to be. لِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ أَجَلٍ, for every nation is a term. For every nation is a term for which they are allowed to live in this world, and eventually their term expires. إِذَا جَاءَ أَجَلُهُمْ, and when their term comes, meaning when their term comes to an end, when their ajal comes to its deadline, when it expires, فَلَا يَسْتَأْخِرُونَ سَاعَةً, then they cannot delay for a moment, وَلَا يَسْتَقْدِمُونَ, nor can they advance. They cannot defer it, nor can they bring it before its time. So in other words, the Day of Judgment, the time for it is fixed. The time for the punishment is fixed. I don't have any control over it. Allah will send it. قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ, say, have you considered, إِنْ أَتَاكُمْ عَذَابُهُ, if His punishment came to you, بَيَاتًا, by night, أَوْ نَهَارًا, or by day. Bayat is from the root letters? Bayata, and we have done this word earlier as well. Bayat is used for by night. Why? It's from the word bayt. And what is bayt? House. Where do you spend your night? In the house. So, in atakum adabuhu bayatan aw naharan. If the punishment comes to you by night or by day, ماذا يستعجل منه المجرمون, then what is it that the criminals are hastening for? What are they being so hasty about? What do they want so bad? The punishment? Is that what you're so eager for? What's the objective of saying this? That the punishment is going to come to you at any time without warning. Why do you want it so bad, and why are you being so impatient for it? Why are you being so impatient for it? Don't be so impatient for it. Asumma, then is it, إِذَا مَا وَقَعَ, when it will actually occur, وَقَعَ from the root letters, waw, qaf, ayn. When it will actually occur, when it will actually happen, is it then that آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ? Then you will believe in it. Then you will believe in the Qur'an. What use is that belief going to be? Al-ana, now. Al-ana is a combination of a, meaning Hamza, what, and an, now. So what is it at this point, now, that you will believe? And an is from the root letters, Hamza, Waw, Noon. So, when the punishment descends, then you're going to believe. That belief is not going to be of benefit. Al-ana وَقَدْ كُنْتُمْ, while in fact you were bihi tastarjilun, you were hastening for it before. When the punishment comes, you will run away from it. Well, you were actually demanding it before. And then you are going to believe. That belief is not going to benefit at all. The time to believe is now. Like many people, they say, when they blame everything on fate, on destiny, on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say, okay, when this happens, then I will believe. When this happens, then I will change. But the fact is that when a calamity does befall a person, then it's too late to change. It's too late to do anything. ثُمَّ قِيلَ لِلَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا, then it will be said to those people who did zulm, ذُوقُوا عَذَابَ الْخُلْدِ, taste the punishment of eternity, because now there is no going back. Now it's all over. Life is finished. So taste the punishment of eternity. That will be eternal. That will not end at all. And هَلْ تُجْزَوْنَ, are you being recompensed إِلَّا بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْسِبُونَ, except for that which you were earning? Meaning this is exactly what you deserve. Isn't this what you deserve? This is what you deserve. You were so hasty for it. You wasted your time waiting for it, demanding it. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. Now, taste the consequences. In Surah Yunus, ayat 90 and 91, we learned that Fir'aun also did the same thing. That for all those years, when the message was brought to him, he denied continuously. And then, حَتَّى إِذَا أَدْرَكَهُ الْغَرَقُ قَالَ آمَنْتُ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا الَّذِي آمَنَتْ بِهِ بَنُو إِسْرَائِيلَ وَأَنَا مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Until when drowning overtook him, he said, I believe that there is no God except that in whom the children of Israel have believed, and I am of the Muslims. But what was said? Al-ana? Now you believe? وَقَدْ عَصَيْتَ قَبْلُ, and you had disobeyed him before. وَكُنْتَ مِنَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ, and you are of the mufsideen. Meaning now your iman is not going to benefit you. So what's the lesson of all of these ayat? That instead of waiting for something big to happen, so that then we will change, what do we have to do? We have to bring about the change now. Because we don't know when it might be too late for us. We don't know when it might be too late. Generally people wait for some big events to happen. When this will happen, then I will change. When this will happen, then I will improve. Then I will start studying the Quran. Then I will start learning. But sometimes we waste our life in only waiting. And we keep waiting, and we keep losing chances. We keep losing opportunities. And at the end, we're left with nothing. So before it's too late, we should take advantage of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is providing us with. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.